Hey, Nat.
Hi.
How you doing?
Oh, this is great.
It's been forever. I don't think I've seen you in the flesh in over a month.
Yes. How is my flesh looking to you? Stop looking at my flesh.
It's an interesting color, but that's because the reflection of the parking lot lights are bouncing off your camouflage jacket.
Well, do you recognize this scarf?
If I had to guess, I would say it has something to do with Doctor Who.
Indeed. It is if you guys know Doctor Who, this is the most famous science fiction scarf in history.
It's Tom Baker's scarf.
I don't know what the colors are because I'm slightly colorblind, but...
Yeah, it's hard to tell in this light. Maybe we should tell people why we're sitting in a parking lot doing the show.
Yeah, so as you guys know, we usually like to get together when... any version of the band Yes with John Anderson is in it. And so...
Oh, John Anderson is not in this version.
What?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that's news to me. I thought I was going to see John Anderson tonight. And
you
I'm
just
regretting
saw him.
it. So who's singing tonight?
A guy named John Davidson.
All right.
Well...
So what part of Yes is going to be playing tonight?
Steve Howe.
Oh, all right. We got Steve Howe.
Steve Howe and...
Anderson Wakeman and...
No, Steve Howe and... the hell's the guy's name? The keyboard player.
Oh, the guy that wears a cape?
No, not Rick Wakeman.
Not the caped crusader?
No. This is Yes Official.
Oh,
right?
Okay.
So it's oh my God, I can't believe I'm blanking on this guy's name.
Yeah. I think
he was on the Drama album. He played on the Drama album, which came out in 1980, which is the album right before 90215.
And I don't remember, but we are sitting here at the theater at Westbury.
Yes.
Which is a very small theater, and it's very intimate, and it's something they call in the round.
Yes, that means the stage rotates 360 degrees while the musicians play.
It's a nice theater. I've seen Jim Gaffigan here. Gaffigan. And
did nice Jim Gaffigan rotate?
He did. It was so weird. And he didn't move. He stayed perfectly still and delivered jokes rapid fire while he rotated. And I was laughing the entire time. But yeah, so here we are. We're
Jeff Downs.
Jeff Downs.
That's the keyboard player.
Yeah.
He was also in Asia, if you remember that band.
I remember seeing covers of their records and wondering what would that music sound like.
Yeah, it's the Howard Dean covers. He did all the Yes albums.
Yes.
But the reason that we're sitting here talking into an H5 Zoom recorder is because this is the only conceivable time that we have to sit down and talk to one another.
Yeah, we were going to record this morning at like 8 o'clock. We were trying to do. And we've got a lot of great things to talk about, some really interesting things coming up that I've been just bursting at the seams to talk about. But this morning I got a message from Mike, and
yeah,
I forgot. He said we're going into New York City.
We actually didn't go into the city.
And they didn't even go. You see, but then I had to go to, what did I do? I went to a birthday party with race cars. I just came back from it. My hair is all special. It's just been nonstop. Not only that, the Christmas pageant is coming up, and guess who is one of the kings?
You.
Me.
Congratulations.
Because there's not enough kids participating. So I'm singing and Max. It's going to be me, my father, and my son Max.
You guys are practically running the whole church?
Basically. Yeah. It is just us now.
So I was, speaking of church, I was told by my sister-in-law that because of healthcare reasons, she wants to get married to her fiance before the end of the year. But her wedding is scheduled for next August.
I see.
So she asked me, as a minister of the Universal Life Church, if I would perform her wedding before the end of the year. So I agreed. I'm going to do that.
You can make a legal union between two.
Yes. So anybody out there who wants to get married, just let me know.
Wow. Well, I'd like to wish her all of the best.
Thanks. I'll convey your wishes.
It's been great to see that the Monksters are still going at it strong, talking, planning things, and I feel like we haven't been doing our part. I feel like
we've been doing a lot of parts.
I know.
That's the problem. We've been doing all people's parts.
Yeah.
So we were having a discussion on the way over here about what the show is going to look like going forward based on the time constraints we have and all this kind of stuff. And we kicked a few ideas around. And I don't think we've really kind of settled on exactly what's going to happen. But the one thing I can say is any sort of thought of having like regular releases is kind of off the table for the time being. I think we're going to have to drop shows as we can, when we have the time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think that that's going to be at least once or twice a month, right?
Yeah, we don't want to promise something that we're just completely incapable of delivering. And I feel like, if we can just catch as catch can, like when we have something really that we want to discuss,
right.
Maybe we really go for it, like this book, the Matthew Perry book.
Right.
Might be a great, especially because the Monksters are having a book club about it.
Oh, yeah.
And I kind of always wanted to do something that like coincided with a Monkster book club, but it was just sort of an idea in my head. I don't think I even vocalized it, but I thought it'd be great. They have the book club and we read the book together, and then we do a show on it.
Yeah, I mean, we could actually have everybody in the book club
chime
on the
in.
show.
Yeah, it would almost be like
we could do it on, what do you call that? Zencaster.
Yeah.
Yeah, and record it.
That would be really cool. And if you guys would be interested in that, let us know. You don't have to be
you don't have
if you
to.
don't want
right.
to. But
I mean, that's if you just want to have a book club without, talking to all of our thousands and thousands of dedicated listeners, you can feel go right ahead.
But we really, I just wanted to say, I had something to say.
What do you have to say?
Welcome to all the Monksters
around the world. And next door.
Across the table and right next door. Welcome all. Settle in, buckle up, and get ready for excitement, tragedy, comedy, intrigue, mystery, and more. Where can they find us?
Shit, where can they find us? They can you can find us at middleagesrecovery.com. Please. I think what we're going to do with the Patreon is kind of stop that for a little while, right? Like stop taking people's money and delivering no shows.
Listen, we appreciate it. Like, we really, really appreciate you guys donating to the show, but I don't think we feel right about taking your money if we're not producing like exclusive content.
Yeah.
I think what we'll do is just kind of put a stop on the payments that are coming out.
Yeah.
And open up the Discord.
To the Facebook group.
Well, yeah, or whomever.
Right. Whoever emails Mike Hart, middleagesrecovery.com and request the secret codes.
It's basically not everybody can just randomly go in. We want to keep it tight and just, people who are there to recover. But
your application will be reviewed and a decision will be made.
And that's really what this show was always about, is just recovering together. Like, we never wanted to be like, we're going to tell you how we did it type of thing. And we're sort of like, we're doing it and we're talking about it. We're working through problems just like everyone else is, but we're doing it together. And I think that's the most beautiful thing.
That is the most beautiful thing, among other beautiful things.
Are you still sober? I haven't seen Mike in about a month.
I've been pretty good. I actually had a really long work trip in California.
Oh, wow.
Where I was surrounded by drinking and debauchery for days.
Yeah, and you just sat there and watched, picking your nose?
Pretty much. Something I noticed that really was kind of weird, though. This is the same group of people that I see every 2 years, right? Same conference, and it's the same people, and usually until they retire, right? Because why wouldn't you want to come to a place like San Diego and stay for 5 days and basically have food and drink and minimal participation in conferences and so forth?
You bring me.
But I noticed that since the pandemic, like the reception, we had it at the same hotel, same location in 2018, and then we had to take the second, it's every other year. So the other year was COVID, so we didn't have it that year, right? So then we came back in 2022.
Right.
Same cast of characters. The reception in 2018 was the most drunken, ridiculous, and I was participating full-throatedly at the time. I remember there was this British guy that came over, and we were arguing about politics in 2018.
Very.
And It's hard because if you drink a lot, then the British people, it's hard to understand what they're saying after a little while. And I'm sure that goes both ways.
I use subtitles when I'm watching certain British shows.
So do I.
Yeah.
But we were just, at the end of the night, we were just babbling at one another. Although his wife was a huge Doctor Who fan, so we had a nice discussion. Anyway, he didn't come this year. But a lot of the people who were the most active participants in the drinking in 2018 were not drinking at all in 2022. And it was more than like one other person. It was like a whole bunch of people. And the thing was very sort of sedate. And I spoke to some of my colleagues afterwards, and the ones that were like drinkers were like, yeah, that was pretty boring this year. And the ones that weren't were just like, yeah, it was great this year.
Yeah, it was actually nice. Yeah, I think, and this is just a guess, but I feel like a lot of people during the pandemic really hit the bottle hard. And I think more people than usual hit like a really bad spot in their drinking probably.
Yeah.
And maybe this is the pullback from that. I think a lot of people are having like reactions to maybe how much weight they gained. I know a lot of people are feeling like they gained a lot of weight from all the drinking.
Right.
Or people's health really saw the effects of the daily drinking that so many people were doing. And maybe that's just like a reaction to that. Maybe a lot of people, especially adults, who are like, I don't want to kill myself with, alcohol anymore.
Right.
This is the pullback. I mean, that's just my theory.
What is that? Do you hear that?
Yeah, someone's listening to music, and the fans that come to these Yes shows that we go to, and the Jethro Tull show, it's very interesting.
Yes.
I've been going out to more shows. I mean, I say I have no time, but that's because the free time I do have, I'm actually trying to spend time
with your wife.
Even
right?
my wife. Yeah. Finally, guys, I've been working at this a long time. Our relationship hit talk about rock bottom. You know what I mean? Like, luckily she put up with me, and I was able to come back from it, and things are really good now. But now it's like, okay, time to cultivate our relationship. It's time, for us to like do things together.
Yeah.
And not just run away from each other, and that's getting really hard to do, but at least, we're making time for it. So we went to see this comedian, John Mulaney, who some of you may know from, he did a show with Nick Kroll called Oh Hello, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
And he's just a really funny stand-up comedian, young. And we got to this show, and I was surprised when it was essentially like an NA meeting. Now, he's never been a recovery guy or anything.
Interesting.
But his whole show was about, during the pandemic, he went to rehabs, and he was intervened on for cocaine, and he told a bunch of really, really bad stories, made it funny, and then talked about his recovery.
Right.
And it was just not what I expected, because I didn't know that he had a problem. He's like friends with Pete Davidson.
Oh, yeah.
And like all those guys, Chris Parnell, and they were the ones that intervened on him.
Right.
So he's
wow.
like, the whole thing revolved around like the most famous young comedians right now. And it was a really great time. And I began to realize that everybody we had gone with wasn't drinking.
Interesting.
And then I realized that the person whose suite it was, she was someone we used to party with like hard when I first met my wife. And I had known that she had gotten sober, and all the friends we were with were like her new sober friends. But none of us knew that this was going to be like a recovery comedy show. Like, it was so weird.
That is weird. So did she get sober through a program, or did she just stop drinking? Or
from what I understand, because what happened was this couple, they had like the party house. They were like the main party group.
Right.
Everyone would go there for everything. Ultimately, he had a very successful business, and he was able to move to Connecticut. So they like moved away.
Okay.
Geographic.
Got out of the scene.
And then I think things got much worse from what I've heard.
Okay.
Then they all got sober.
Wow.
Through program, like AA and NA and stuff like that.
That's
and
so crazy.
All of their friends. So a lot of the people from that time are either where they're at, in recovery,
right,
or a few of them are dead,
right,
and some of them
went
it's just
pro.
like we don't know where they are.
Yeah.
So it was really interesting. But it's a good time, and I didn't feel bad not drinking because nobody was.
Isn't that great when you go to something and there's no pressure at all because nobody's doing it? Yeah. I mean, it's great. It would be great if it was like that all the time. It was kind of nice that, my work event, there was enough people that had stopped drinking that I didn't feel at all uncomfortable about it. And in fact, they recently raised, I get an expense account when I travel, and I have a certain amount that I can spend on dinner if I'm with another person from my office, right? And I used to find it really hard to stay within the parameters of that money
because you want a bottle of wine
because I'd be drinking
3 Jack and Cokes.
But my friend and I, this time around, we got there and we had a couple of days. One day we went hiking in La Jolla.
Nice.
This is like my work boyfriend.
Nice.
Right? So, but we were like, hey, he's like, oh, you're not drinking. He's like, I won't drink either. Let's see how much food we can get. And so we ended up eating like pigs because we weren't eating up that whole per diem with booze. And we ended up getting some really fantastic food. So it's like all things are possible with sobriety, right? But what I want to know about like this comedian is I assume the entire audience who is at this thing was not sober.
No.
So like how did those jokes land?
It was really interesting. It was almost like putting a bunch of people who aren't in recovery or not a recovery adjacent, going to see a comedy show of a guy who his Netflix specials are not like what we saw.
Really?
And he said something to that effect. He goes, "Thank you for coming to the show. I just want to warn you now, if you're looking for the guy you just watched on Netflix, I ain't it,
Well, had he gotten sober recently?
Yeah, like 2 years ago during the pandemic or something like
Okay.
that, or just after the pandemic. But, so it was, I think, a shock to a lot of people. But me and the other guy, one of the other sober guys that were there, said something like he was funny, but none of that was shocking. It just was a pretty formulaic.
Yeah.
It was like a formulaic, like, recovery, what is it, something strength, experience, strength, and hope.
Yeah.
But it was one of the funniest comedians doing it,
right,
and talking about other celebrities.
Interesting.
But I'm sure for people who just thought it was John Mulaney, the like wacky, funny comedian guy, all of a sudden got hit with this really hard, like nasty drug recovery story. I think most people were probably shocked. But they were laughing. I don't know, man. But it was really interesting. I have to say, check out John Mulaney. I don't think this act that he just did is out anywhere.
Really?
Everyone had to lock up their phones before you came in. He was very adamant that nobody recorded, so I wasn't even. I didn't have access to my phone.
Lock up your phone where?
They have these special bags that lock, and you can't take them off. They bring. You can
keep the phone.
Yeah, you
in
bring
the bag
it with you in the bag, but the bag is locked and it's not openable.
That's bizarre.
Yeah, if you wanted to use it, you have to go to a special area and they'll unlock it for you.
I see.
Right, but I thought it was great. We freaked out because our kids are home with my parents, and everybody had that same feeling. Oh my God!
Right.
My in-laws are with my kids. I won't be able to hear, but it was.
And then you realize it's because when I went to see King Crimson a while ago at the Paramount, it was the same deal. Like you couldn't, if you took your phone out, Robert Fripp from the stage would point at the person. The lights would go on him, and security would come and drag you out.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a little Pink Floyd The Wall kind of.
Interesting.
But in hindsight, we spend so much time at these concerts looking at the show through the phone,
right,
that you're not really, use your mind as the videotape. But.
So before we watch this show, are we going to make a no phone pact?
No.
Me neither. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
I mean, it's.
Let's not do it. I don't like you that much. I mean, come on.
I listen. Speaking of like comedians and sobriety and so on, I listened to Bill Maher this week, and he had Matthew Perry on, who was talking about the new memoir, right?
Yes.
And
let's get that book right now.
We should. I'm going to download it.
Me too.
But it was a couple of things struck me. One, Bill Maher was like, he said something like, well, he's like, I guess you found out you're one of those people that can't handle the drugs. He's like, I still take lots of drugs and I'm fine. Bill Maher said that.
He said that?
Yeah. And then at the end of the interview, it was actually a good interview because Bill said, I think you're going to find that your best days are still ahead of you. Your best roles are still ahead of you.
Who was he talking to?
Matthew Perry, yeah.
Well, who's still Bill Maher still doing drugs, interviewing Matthew Perry.
Correct.
Got it.
Right. And then, but at the end of the interview, He asked Matthew Perry, he's like, "Do you still have any cravings for drugs or alcohol?" And he's like, "No, I don't. I'm really settled my sobriety right now." And Bill Maher says, "Well, good. Then don't come to the party after the show." But he said it in a way that was like,
he's
it kind of pissed me off because I'm like, the assumption is like, if you are recovered from drug and alcohol addiction, like you can't go to a party where people are doing drugs and alcohol because you're gonna like just become like some kind of a monster or something.
Right. I'm gonna make everyone feel bad.
And I get that Matthew Perry like was a bit of a monster with drugs. Like
I don't know his story at all, so I'm excited to read this.
I mean,
book.
it's from what I've been able to gather through the media that's been around lately. It was really something. He needed to have part of his like colon removed.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You just got a picture for everybody.
Yes.
So that's interesting. I'm looking forward to hearing that. But Bill Maher, in general, that's his like shtick. He's kind of an asshole, smarty pants.
Well, he smokes a lot of weed. He's very involved in pot legalization and stuff, which is fine. He takes a lot of psychedelics. Whatever.
He's very smart, and sometimes I really like what he says. Other times I'm like, that's ridiculous.
I don't have to
put
agree
much
with
stock
everything
in
he
his.
says.
Yeah.
Can I just tell you, like we're sitting here in this parking lot, right?
Yeah.
And I'm watching the people walk by, and it's mostly men in like their late 50s, early 60s. And somebody near us has been blasting Led Zeppelin at top volume for the last 10 minutes. I don't know if you guys can hear it. And I've been smelling like weed and cigarettes and everything. And there's all these people. And I've seen like 3 women, which is unusual at a Yes show. Usually there's none.
Yeah.
But it's just a bizarre scene. Like everybody's like making the run into the theater because they have to use the bathroom and get drinks in beforehand.
It's already looking like a younger crowd than the Jethro Tull show.
The Jethro Tull show was positively geriatric.
Yeah.
I've never seen a bunch of older people. And that was a weird show because it was at a college dorm or something.
Yeah, it was like at the quad of a community college
in the cafeteria.
Yeah.
I saw the Ramones in the cafeteria at Fordham.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was a good show.
Some of the best shows happen in cafeterias.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The crowd, we smelled a lot of marijuana or cannabis, I should say, at the last septuagenarian infested rock show. So I don't know. Maybe all of the people in their 60s and 70s are starting to smoke pot.
Yeah.
Because now that it's legal, can you imagine if you were like coming of age in the 60s where pot was like the biggest evil to society? Like it was so counterculture to smoke pot back then. But now it's sort of like you watch WWE and they have a wrestler whose whole shtick is 420, bro. He's like a 420 guy. I'm like, wow. It's so different now. So these guys have to be just flipping their lids like, I can get pot and nobody cares.
It's so normative in the culture now. Like my son came home from college a few weeks ago. He's been having a rough time down there socially. Like he's not a partier. Which is very different from what he was in high school. Anybody that's listened to the earlier episodes in the show knows the kind of trouble I was having with this kid like a few years ago. But we were driving around when he came home for a visit, and he just opened up. I guess he kind of figured the statute of limitations on anything he'd done in high school had run because I couldn't yell at him or punish him anymore for it, and he was pretty much right about that. But he was telling me about how kids nowadays at the high school are just like vaping weed in class. They're not even going to the bathroom because it's like
you can get away with it.
It doesn't smell that much.
It's just like when I vape in your car or in your basement, I just blow it into my scarf or something.
Yeah.
It doesn't smell.
But it's
not pot.
It's such a different environment from like the 1980s where if you wanted to smoke a cigarette, there was no way to hide smoking a cigarette in a bathroom, right?
That's why I loved acid in high school.
But anyway, he was. You can hide acid. You can't really hide the fact that you're on acid very well.
It's difficult, but it's a 14-year-old. I got good at it.
Well, and he told me a funny story. He's like, I remember this one time I was sitting in my room and I was so stoned and Mom came up to ask me something and I looked at her and she didn't even look human to me. I was like, Jesus Christ, why are you
he's opening up.
He is, and I was encouraging and he's like, there's so many kids who just smoke weed all day. Smoke weed every day. We don't have my board. And we just basically spent the entire 4 years of high school in outer space,
Yeah.
And it's worrisome because I have, Ben and Noah are in 7th grade and very impressionable. And,
Yeah.
Ben sees people vaping in the bathroom all the time. And, it's like a whole, I worry.
I worry too. And sometimes I would talk about drug use amongst kids and drinking, why I don't drink. I haven't gotten into that. I'm a recovered drug addict with him. I mean, I make it sort of all about alcohol.
Right, me too.
But when I do talk about it, I'm very candid with him about, when he has questions about it, like, the difference between pot and how I tell him, I don't want you to really drink ever, and just stay away from that. It'll ruin your life, But he's like, well, what about pot, And I'm like, I'm just honest with him. I said, you have a developing brain. There's studies that show it's really bad idea to smoke pot like before you're like 18 at the very least, probably till you're 25. But I said, look, it's not going to kill you, and it's better than drinking, because it is. I'm just being honest with him.
Yeah, I know. But it feels weird to say that.
Yeah,
though.
But I feel like if I'm honest with him about that, when I tell him there is no such thing as heroin, you can't get cocaine.
Right.
It's all fentanyl, and it will kill you.
Right.
He'll believe me because I was honest about the pot.
I've been beating that drum with Jack
a
lot about how any kind of weird drugs you want to take on the street.
Around.
Yeah, you shouldn't even buy weed off the street because it's got stuff, in it.
Well, that's
you know what? Yeah. I remember when I was 17 and people would say, "Oh, the pot is laced with the," Yeah. I'd be like, "Yeah, whatever, man," But I hope kids are a little more.
I hope they're scared shitless.
Yeah.
Because since I started talking to Noah about these things, people have been dropping like flies in the news, in our lives, friends, family, celebrities. And every time it comes up, I don't mince words. I said, Noah, 23-year-olds don't have heart attacks or die of sudden, natural causes. That was drugs.
Right.
And I'm using a little scare tactics, but it's reality. Like, people are dying all the time. I said, I've lost over a dozen friends and family, from drugs. Like, straight up, it will kill you, And I feel like, at first my wife was a little bit like, don't say. I'm like, I want him to know what he's up against.
Because he's going to see it at school. I mean,
and he already watches like Breaking Bad without, and
what is it about Breaking Bad that's become like?
I don't know.
Because Jack too, he's obsessed with it.
It's something to do with TikTok.
Yeah.
Like, anytime there's a resurgence in something like that, it's 100% some jackass TikToker. Like,
TikTok is very strange because, Ben comes up with jokes and stuff and all this stuff, and you have a whole generation of kids who are being brought up now with this very laissez-faire attitude about cannabis use.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at the same time, like, they're finally able to study cannabis in a way they weren't able to do in the 60s. So, like, every day a new study drops how it's bad for developing brains. And, like, today I saw one, it's like it shrinks your balls or something. And I was like, I was going to be like, hey, Jack, don't smoke weed. It's going to shrink your balls. I don't know if that would get through, but it's the more they find out, like the more they realize, that maybe it's not as benign as everybody thinks it is. And I don't know if that's just because the THC content is so much higher, and you're dealing with pot that's not the same way it was when the hippies were smoking it, in the 60s, or the punks or the neo hippies like me were smoking it in the 80s.
I heard it's very strong.
It is. I've had some in the last few years, and it really is. Not recently.
Like, you can go and like you can get it like it's almost purified, the same way like crack is purified cocaine.
Yeah,
or
it's
like
wax,
isolated.
Yeah.
You could do that.
Dimitri was smoking wax in his room a lot.
That's straight up. That's not smoking pot.
No, it makes
anymore.
it's a drug. It makes you like comatose.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. I said to Dimitri, were you thinking about fentanyl? Were you thinking about any of this kind of stuff? And he was aware of it, and he's like, yeah, there were a few junkies in school, and you'd know who was doing heroin and stuff. But I got this sense that it was not something that was sort of normal. People were not looking for opiates. They were just mostly involved into psychedelics.
Right.
But he did tell me that he's like, it was always great when you could get carts cartridges for the vape, like that were from a dispensary. He's like, but 9 times out of 10, it was some guy making it in his basement with weird carrier oils, and he didn't know what else was in there.
That's when people were getting those respiratory problems because it had something acetate in it.
And I don't know what the answer is. I mean, Ben, I've been beating the drumbeat for Ben for years. Like, alcohol bad, drugs bad. And you wonder if you're just seeding sowing the field with the wrong kind of seed. Like, because people at some point, like you turn 14, and all of a sudden you know everything, and everything your parents tell you is bullshit, right?
So they're going to do the opposite.
Right. So Dad's been telling me that all this stuff is bad all along. What does he know?
Yeah. Well, that's when it sort of comes time, maybe. At some point, I've been thinking about this. When am I going to break my anonymity with Noah? Like, that's like that's like emergency break glass. Like, when are we going to reach back into our toolkit and bring out the fact that we've recovered from narcotics and like
just send them a link to the show.
Yeah, I mean, like, because that could go a long way, because they can never say you don't know what I'm going through.
Right.
If it ever gets there, and God help me if it does.
Right.
And I hope it's not one of those things where it's like, don't think about an elephant. Don't think about an elephant.
Right.
And all they hear is elephant, elephant.
Well, I mean, it didn't work for me so well with Dimitri, because when he was just getting started, I was at the tail end of my pot smoking career, and he found my weed in the safe, and it was like all of a sudden my credibility was gone. I couldn't. And although I do credit that period of time with the decision for me to finally put everything down, because I'm like, I can't handle him going through an addiction, a nascent addiction issue while I'm struggling with, alcohol at the same time. Like,
you can't.
I can't do it.
It's like every time you watch Intervention and the dad's a drunk, but he's not part. He's part of the intervention, but not the one being.
Right.
The kid always goes,
I learned it from you.
I learned it from watching you, Dad. And they try to give them, treatment as well. But it's true. Like, look, none of us is perfect, and that's important. Like, just the fact that we're giving like our kids advice. Like, I don't ever want it to be misconstrued. Like, I know everything. Yeah. I don't, because that's exactly what's going to turn it off.
Right.
Man, it has been so crazy trying to negotiate with a 12-year-old.
Yes.
Just everything.
Yep.
Showers.
Right.
Brushing your hair, doing your homework. Like, it's just been so crazy. But
it's good to do it without being half in the bag all the time.
I don't know how I was
don't either.
as drunk as I used to be. Because I have to be on like Donkey Kong. I mean, from the minute I wake up, 6 o'clock, to the minute I close my eyes at like 11:30 after I put Noah down and get him to bed. It's nonstop.
It is. It really is.
But maybe that's why I don't have time to think about using. Like my job. I mean,
your priorities flipped, right?
Just, when I was at the store all day doing nothing, all I could think about was, either doing the show, which is great, but I was obsessing over not drinking, not using, the first couple of years, and it didn't go well.
No.
So I don't know. Like
now it's like you barely think about it at all.
Right.
It's not even a factor. And hasn't that been the goal all along? To get like a life back where you're not obsessing over like using or not obsessing about not using.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, this is something that Mike and I talked about when we were like, should we keep doing the show?
Yeah.
Like, because we were feeling really bad just because we love the show. We love hanging out with each other. We love talking to you guys. And it just hasn't been possible. And it was sort of like, then we started to like rationalize doing it. Mm-hmm. And one of Mike's rationalizations was that, isn't the goal to not think about this stuff all the time? And to not, and short answer is yes, that is pretty much the goal. But not really. The goal is to never drink or use again.
Yeah,
live a full life, right? So if doing a show like this and still engaging in a recovery community helps you do that, that's a good thing. See, I'm selling you back the other way.
Yeah, I don't disagree, and I don't think what I was doing was really so much a rationalization as it was like the idea that maybe sometimes I want to take off the jacket of Mr. Recovery and just live my life, without having to think about like I basically stopped listening to all recovery podcasts.
Too.
Like I just can't.
I can't hear it anymore.
Yeah,
I've heard it too much. I still listen to Dopey and.
Well, you know why Dopey's good? Because Dopey comes at it from a slightly different angle.
Yeah,
it's
not experience, strength, and hope. It's
and Dave is very sharp, and he's a good interviewer. Like a lot of these, like I love Annie Grace. God bless her. She increased the audience for our podcast by
Annie.
hundreds of people a week.
And her book is amazing.
But her podcast is there's no back and forth. There's no, she's not an interviewer. She'll just set you in motion and there you go. Well, you did it.
She gave me enough rope to hang myself with. That's for sure.
But Dave is an insightful interviewer. Like he will ask probing questions. He'll follow up on questions that he asked earlier. He's very good.
Yeah,
he's very good.
Yeah, sometimes he'll ask a question that I'm like, ooh, that's a good one. Yeah. And then I'll text him like, that was a good one. Yeah.
He's interviewed some people that I just find fascinating, like Jerry Garcia's wife and Maya Salovitz, who
the Maya Salovitz interview that he did was excellent. Let me tell you guys, if you were at DopeyCon and you got to listen to her or you've read her books, Undoing Drugs, did we do a show on that yet? Or did I just read it? I don't remember.
We did a show on one of her books.
Man, her and Tracy Helton are the two of my favorite harm reduction journalist scholars. She's just got such a cogent, clear, coherent idea of what she's trying to do with harm reduction. Like any question that gets thrown at her, she gives a great, reasonable, insightful answer,
right,
based on her philosophy of harm reduction. It's just nobody is quite as sharp, I think, at harm reduction as she is, for my money.
And she sold coke to Jerry Garcia.
Yeah, that's a great story too. She had some great stories on top of it. Did she say she's still on Suboxone, or did I imagine that?
You know what? I didn't listen to the whole thing.
I thought I heard her say that, and then I let it go. But even if she is, that means she's living the harm reduction life, man.
She was pretty out there too. She folded a lot of her personal story into whatever book it was. It's funny. I can't remember what book we read because. Occasionally, and this is a little bit of a squirrel aside.
Dopamine Nation, or no?
That was the other one.
Lambert.
Lemke. But occasionally, a Monkster will message me or post in the Facebook group. It's so funny. I was listening to episode 37. Six pack, haha. And I'm like, what the fuck are they talking about? I don't. We did so many shows in the beginning, and it was such a weird time. COVID was a fucking time warp.
I'm
man.
afraid to listen to the old shows.
I can't do it. I can't go back and listen.
It's this amazing time capsule.
But guys, I'm going to just tell you this out front. If you want me to comment on something that we did in an earlier show, you got to give me some context.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Jog the memory because my memory sucks. I'm 54 years old. I don't remember what I did 2 days ago. But
yeah, thank you guys for just sticking with us and continue to reach out to us and recover together. It's Thanksgiving, I think.
Yeah.
Wait, how much time do we have for this?
We got a little time.
Okay, good. Thanksgiving is coming. I don't think we're going to get another show before Thanksgiving.
No, I don't think so.
So I wanted to take this time to wish.
You smell the weed?
Yeah, I smell that.
Somebody smoked I'm watching people with walkers going in here. Who's smoking all this
they're
dope?
Definitely getting. We're probably getting a contact high in here. I wanted to wish all the Monksters a Thanksgiving, not a Thanksgiving, a Thanksgiving. Merry Thanksgiving. Did we say Merry Thanksgiving?
You could say whatever you want.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
What are your plans for Thanksgiving?
Oh, we're having 20 people at the house. Yeah.
Cheese and crackers.
So it's it's been a little tense around the house. because Erin decided that we
Who's
needed
coming? Is
all
it-
new furniture.
Oh,
as well.
yeah?
No, I'm just kidding. We were
My
sort
wife's
of,
doing that too now. We went to Lowe's to look for a new front door. I'm like, really? Okay.
Well, I think Erin and I both do this. Like
Yeah.
before, there's this amazing thing that we have to do all this planning for. We're both like, let's spend 3 days looking at new couches.
Oh, yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
because
Well, we're
it's
having
avoidance.
Christmas and did
It's
the same
avoidance
thing,
therapy.
right.
You know, but yeah, it's both. Well, it's very interesting. It's both sides of the family. So, and none of them are mine because my relatives are for the most part deceased or live elsewhere. But her father and her mother are not married, but they both have significant others, and there's aunts and uncles and cousins. But both sides are coming.
Are they all cool with each other?
Yeah, everybody
I mean,
seems to
everyone's
get
mature.
along. Yeah, at this point, what are you going to do, right? And everybody, we were the only ones who really were volunteering to host anyway. So
It's a lot of people.
it
for
is,
your
but you know
house.
what?
Where do
We're
you put them?
we're ordering a lot of food.
Wait, where's the dining? I'm picturing the dining room where the dogs attack me.
Yes.
So you're going to seat people there?
Yeah,
and
I
then
have two
kitchen?
leaves I can put in that table and make
Right.
it bigger. In the kitchen, there's
Kids
other
table?
places for
How
people
many
to
kids
sit.
are gonna be there?
You know what? I'm going to let people take their plates and sit anywhere.
Oh, nice.
I'm not going to do.
Brilliant.
Nobody has to sit at a long table like it's some fucking
That's the best way
Adams
to do it.
Family Thanksgiving.
I haven't had
Yeah.
a big Thanksgiving in a long time, but when we used to, yeah, that was the best way to do it.
Yeah, it's the only way that makes any sense.
Yeah.
But we ordered a lot of food from what's that deli in Woodbury or that Italian Ivoroni Brothers.
Oh, Ivoroni.
Yeah. So we got like the Thanksgiving feast from them, but I got the turkey raw. I'm going to cook the turkey, and people are bringing stuff. So it's going to be kind of light lifting. We just need to make sure the place is like clean and in order, and the drugs, the dogs are
The
tranquilized.
drugs are dog-realized.
More weed. Somebody is fucking really ripping it up.
Yeah, well, Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah, what are you doing?
I am looking forward to it. This post-COVID like holidays coming back. It's still new for me. It's still novel. I'm still like, oh, this is going to be great. It's going to be very small Thanksgiving. My brother's with his wife's family, and they're a big Catholic family. It's like she's got 4 brothers and sisters, and they have 6 kids each, and it's like 100 grandkids, and they live in Florida or something.
That's a state in the South.
Yeah.
Florida.
So, in any case, so
we have
going.
Monksters in Florida.
We do.
Yes.
It's my favorite state in the South.
It is?
No,
Why? Because it is.
I'm trying to think.
Disney?
No, Texas. Texas is my favorite.
Is Texas a southern state?
It's technically Mexico, isn't it?
I mean, it was.
So, for the first time in a long time, we're gonna have Thanksgiving at my parents' house, the house, my ancestral home,
Right.
where I was raised, the haunted mansion. And my mother is 78 years old, and she has some trouble hearing, and she has some trouble remembering things. But she's very able-bodied. They still exercise constantly.
Good.
So she's very healthy in that way. And so it's just going to be myself. I shouldn't say myself. It shouldn't be. My dad was giving me a hard time about saying myself. It'll be me.
Don't internalize your father's
I
criticism.
know, I can't. He's constantly criticizing me in the back of my head and in real life. And so it's just going to be me, my wife, my kids, and then Christine's mother and sister, and my parents, and my Aunt Ruthie.
It seems like a fair amount of people.
But it's like, usually it's like 25 people. Like you, it was like a 22, 23. But it's going to be great to go back to the old haunted mansion and, have my mom be the actual host. She hasn't been the host of Thanksgiving.
And she must enjoy
in
that.
many years.
Yeah,
like,
she's
we
gonna
took it
enjoy
over, and it's just going to be nice. She's a little excited and stressed out about having to do it, but who knows if this will be the last one we're able to do there. You just don't know. And I think
don't.
about that stuff all the time. Like,
I
when
know.
is it the last time?
I know. And you only start thinking about that when you get older, too.
Yeah.
Do you? I think I know the answer to this because I've been to your house for barbecue. But you serve, like, if you were having Thanksgiving at your house, you would serve alcohol.
At this stage of my in my recovery, yes, I will serve for a long. But let me just say that for the first 2 or 3 years, where I was trying to get sober, what was failing, we didn't have alcohol, and we were still hosting.
You just hid it in the garage.
Yeah. Well, I was still hiding it here and there,
Right.
but once I got actual sober,
Right.
I still didn't have alcohol in the house for about 2 years, I think. And then when I became like, oh, well, this is no big deal, I don't care, I don't even want it, And you could tell, like, certain people in my family, they like to have a glass of wine. They drink like gentlemen, fine. And it didn't bother me. So now we'll have a couple bottles of wine. But you can tell my family is nervous to drink too much in front of me. I don't know why. I don't judge them. But you can see the difference when, like...
But you're making them healthier.
Maybe we're just giving them some kind of guilt. But I don't want them to feel that way. Like, get drunk. Like, have fun,
Right.
Do what you want, just don't hurt yourself. and that's it. But, yeah, we'll serve alcohol. And, my wife is more comfortable having alcohol in the house. She likes to have a glass of wine, once in a while. And, it didn't used to be like this. If there was a bottle of wine in my house, that wouldn't last the night. You know what I mean? And we've had the same alcohol in our fridge in the garage, for 2 or 3 years now. And I just don't care. I don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me.
If I have like a barbecue or something in the summertime and I have beer and... I end up it sits in the cooler for 6 months and I end up having to open it and pour it out down the drain. And beer sitting in a cooler for 6 months in the sun smells really bad when you pour it out. So it's a really negative reinforcement for that.
Yeah.
I
have an anecdote before you go on.
Okay.
I wanted to say, here's just one anecdote about how different things are now than they were. Just the other night, my wife, is on the couch. And she was having a glass of wine. We were watching TV, and she was getting tired. And she said to me, "Honey, can you just take this glass to the kitchen and just dump it out for me?" And in my head, that second, because I can go back to the time like this, when there was so much tension about my drinking, that there was just no way ever that she would ever even feel remotely comfortable suggesting that. And I just, I took it and I dumped it out, put the glass down, and I was like, good for me. Look at how far we've come, And it's good to look back sometimes at where you are now and try and compare it,
Sure.
to it really was a lot worse.
Well, something to be thankful for this Thanksgiving, right?
Absolutely.
I think there might be a lot of people who are newer to sobriety. Oh, there goes a 65-year-old man with a red Solo cup he's hitting before on his way in, who may feel uncomfortable about going to some place that a relative or friend or family that has a lot of alcohol, and I can understand that. But the thing that I realized really early on is that, even though my mental outlook completely changed about alcohol, like I don't like it. I don't like to see it. I don't like it around. There's no way that the world is ever going to come to see things the same way I do. Yeah. And
that's okay.
I just have to, I had to learn how to navigate around the fact that it's always going to be there, even though, and I serve it in my house. Like it never even was a question as to whether I wouldn't.
Right.
It's just if somebody, and nobody in my family big drinkers at all. My father-in-law has been in AA for 30 years, so, I just had to, so anybody out there, if you feel super uncomfortable going somewhere where there's a lot of booze, don't stay for too long. You don't have to stay for pumpkin pie. You're usually full after the turkey anyway.
Don't be afraid to say no, or if you like Mike said, to be able to leave. And I think maybe the best thing is to just communicate with your family beforehand.
Yeah.
So you don't feel awkward that, hey, I might need to just leave, and I just need you to understand,
right? Type
of thing. So I always did that.
And if you don't feel like outing yourself like that, just start a discussion about Trump announcing another presidential run, and you'll either be thrown out or you can leave of your own accord and blame Trump.
To give you an idea of how disconnected I've been from the news, I saw that yesterday, and I go, Trump decided to run again? But I don't watch, guys, I don't watch the news anymore.
Yeah.
I have completely disconnected. I started watching a little bit so I could vote, and then I'm out.
Yeah.
It's too much. So, bring up politics if you want to distract from your not drinking. I think that's a good move.
Find your drunkest relative and goad them with the opposite opinion of what they hold.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Have a
great Thanksgiving. And, if you're feeling feeling down and depressed. A lot of people get that way during
And you
Thanksgiving.
need a helping hand.
Reach out. The Monksters are here. You know, you can try and message us. I answer.
You can
all
try.
the time.
There's no guarantees.
I'm pretty good at answering, like on Facebook or on Discord. I try and pop in as much as I can. You know, reach out. There's a community out there. That's what we built this podcast for. Like,
That's right.
we did not build this podcast to like make ourselves look good or something like that.
Well, they mean a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But that's not what this is for. This is for everyone, including us, to help recover, to create a community of support. And that's the most important thing. So keep reaching out. And
Keep reaching for the stars.
Keep reaching for the stars. And just... we miss you guys.
Yeah,
Are we
we
wrapping
do.
it up? Do we have to go in?
I think we should probably go in because we need to get a couple Shirley Temples
Yes.
before we sit
We'll
down.
load up on grenadine.
Yeah.
Mm.
There's no alcohol in that, is there?
No, I don't think.
If there is, we'll get two. So we'll be back after the show for a quick recap.
Yes.
Just to sort of try and fill out the hour.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So will we be right back after these words?
We'll be right back after these words. And we're back.
And we're back. Welcome to Recovery in the Middle Ages, the podcast about two middle-aged suburban dads in their pursuit of life, love, and recovery. I'm Natx.
Mike.
And boy, did we have a show for you.
Yeah, why are you doing this now?
Because I was like, I didn't get it out before. And it's like not a show if I don't get those like staples in, you know?
Okay.
I feel like
Whatever you
I'd
say.
be remiss if I didn't do it. But
So we that was an interesting thing that we just encountered. So we saw the Yes Show.
yes.
Steve Howe is 190 years old, and he looks like Gollum.
He's a bit Gollum-y, but he's wafer thin. And he's a brilliant. Let me tell you guys, once I realized that it was Steve Howe, it just hit me. I've been listening to that record, Fragile, just that one record, Fragile, for 1,000 years, and
It's been out for 1,000 years.
it has been out for, but specifically, there's a piece on there called "Mood for a Day," which is Steve Howe's attempt at writing a classical piece of music, which is really cool. And it was the first classical guitar piece that I ever
Really?
learned and attempted to learn, and I used it to get into as one of my pieces to get into music school. I played that, and then
Cool.
there is the guy who composed it.
I know. That's
played
always
it.
a trip, right?
And I'm like, holy shit. Not only that, they played my favorite song, everybody's favorite song, Roundabout.
Right.
And that other track from Fragile.
Heart of the Sunrise.
And then a woman got hit by a car. It was great.
Yeah, as we were leaving, we hear this commotion right in front of the place, and we walk around this car, and there's these two elderly people who I assume were concert goers, since there was a lot of elderly concert
yeah.
goers, hunched over this woman who was screaming because she had just been hit by their car.
She was,
it was so
lying.
surreal.
Yeah, it was in the parking lot, and Mike and I were walking by, and we could hear the woman going, she was crying, basically.
Yes.
Out. And then there was a man outside of his car, hunched over her. He didn't know what to do. And I looked at Mike, and I'm like, what? 'Cause we're just trying to escape, you know? And it was crazy.
Yeah, you called 911. You did a mitzvah there.
I did a mitzvah. I said, I can't live with myself if I just walk away from this. So I called 911, and I thought that woman was going to keep me on the phone for a while. She's like, what's the make and model of the car? She goes, what color is it? I'm like, it's dark, and I'm colorblind. And so in any case, I'm sure the woman is fine.
Well, I don't know. She didn't seem fine.
Well, she was putting on a show.
I mean,
she did get hit by
you
a car.
think? I don't know. I
don't know. I mean, maybe she broke something.
She was screaming and screeching.
You know.
I mean, I'm sure it hurts if you get your pelvis run over by a car.
What's a cracked pelvis? I mean, it's not that bad.
What's it?
Is it?
What is it?
It's like
probably
when
a couple 100,000.
You crack
in
your
the civil
coccyx?
suit. I don't know.
You looking at my coccyx? No, but the poor woman, hopefully she's fine. But the man who hit her with the car said, yes, she was hit by a car, and he stayed with her.
So he looked like he was probably in his late 60s.
Late 60s.
Same with his wife,
Yeah.
who looked maybe a little older. So I'm wondering when the cops get there, are they going to make them blow? Because I have to tell you, people were wasted in that show, and these are not young people. You know, like some of these guys look like they were 1 or 2 Budweisers away from a heart attack.
It was scary, and I have to say, I tried to go to the bathroom at one point.
Oh yeah, what happened in the bathroom? You came back and you were like, "It's weird in there."
Yeah, man. Like, and I don't know if I've talked about this, but I'm very pee shy. I'm not good at urinating in public.
Wait for the stall.
That's what I tried to do, but the scene in there, I'm like, I don't want to stand here anymore.
What scene? It was a bunch of like elderly men.
But I was not comfortable. They were wasted, playing air guitar with their bellies and canes out, and like guy to my right, it's like the urinals where there's no like covering, and you just old men schmeckles, and on the I'm like, I just couldn't do it, and men are walking by me, and it's wet, and the floor is wet.
So you've been holding it all this time?
I'm holding it. You know,
I waited for a stall when I went.
I tried to, but I was assaulted by all of these old drunks.
There's very little room between the urinal and the stall. It's
I
only
found
like
myself
a foot.
standing there with the guy peeing right next to me, and then a guy's walking by, and I'm trying to get to the stall, and there's people in the stalls, and forget it.
Was anyone smoking pot in there when you were in there?
I couldn't tell. I could just smell it everywhere.
Yeah, there were a couple of older guys who were just standing up and dancing, and you could see because we were pretty close. We were like the second row, and you could tell the band members looking at them and just kind of rolling their eyes. You know,
just like with the fist pumping, they're in the front row, and it's like, I get it. You're excited.
It's not a fucking Taylor Swift concert, right? The guys in the band, you know. None of them were drinking. That music requires a precision that, you know, if you were hitting the sauce, that would be hard to do.
You can't have no sauce when you're. And I even saw, I don't know if you guys have ever watched the videotape of Woodstock when the hippie ladies did a special spazzo dance. Where they would so there was definitely
or if you've ever been to a dead show.
Like, she was doing that thing.
Yeah.
So there was a woman out of control doing that, just like in the back row.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, we are going somewhere tonight. So, but it was great. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, it's great. It was great. So we're going to have to go see some music that's not related to the band. Yes,
I agree. I think a Martin Sexton show would be
sure. And why not?
Or that, or you know,
we could take our wives to something.
Yeah, I was thinking that one of these days. What do you want to see?
I don't know.
We'll think about it.
Maybe the Cure's coming around again.
Cure?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of where
Strange attraction spreads its wings. That one?
Okay. I tried to get you to Jane's Addiction.
Jane's Addiction would have been great.
But, you guys were like, you weren't biting on that one.
Why didn't we go to that show?
I don't know. It was a Friday night at UBS. About a month ago.
I don't know why we didn't go to that.
I mean, it's not usually my flavor of music, but...
there was a reason for that, because we both loved those bands. But overall, it's been a lot of fun. We're sitting in the driveway at my house. Monksters, it's been a long time.
Yeah, and this is kind of not the length of show that you're accustomed to, but it's probably the one that you're going to get going forward. Maybe like an hour, maybe a little more than an hour, right?
Yeah, I feel like at least we got to do this. There's some really exciting things coming up as far as new books, some documentaries. There's a great To Leslie. It was a really interesting film that Mark Maron produced or directed or acted in.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I wanted to talk about that one.
Okay.
So, Monksters, do your homework. Read that Matthew Perry book.
Right.
And watch To Leslie. I think that's going to be worth discussing.
Is that on Netflix or something? Is it out? Is it on a streaming? We'll figure it out.
I can't ever remember where things are streaming these days. I just sort of hope for the best. Can
I say it was very considerate of Yes to end the show at about the 2-hour mark at 10 o'clock, because this is that's enough of me being out.
Because I'm going to go in. I know Noah's waiting up for me.
Is he?
Yeah, he always waits up for me.
Nobody waits up for me.
Yeah.
Everybody's asleep by the time I get
Well,
no, Jack's playing video games. He doesn't want anything to do with me. Ben is probably asleep, and Erin is probably asleep. Although I told Erin about the accident, and she's like, "Is the ambulance there?" And I'm like, "No, we didn't wait for it."
So kind of a crazy night, but it's always good.
You know what? Kind of a crazy night.
Yes.
This is a crazy night. I'll take this kind of crazy night any day.
Any day of the week.
I will, because I have had much crazier nights going to shows.
That's funny that you said that. It's like we're the ones walking away from the horrific accident. Right?
Well, you did your piece. The woman had
Right.
lots of people around her trying to help her,
I felt bad that the woman on 911, she's like, well, was she hit by the car? And I'm just like, well, I'm not sure. I walked out and there she
She's
was.
laying under the wheels.
I mean, anecdotal evidence would suggest that indeed she was hit by this car. I said, but I don't know if she fell down and the car pulled up. She goes, sir, can you please ask them? And I was like, okay, this is awkward.
Did you ask?
Yeah. I walked up to the guy who was holding her head and I said, was she hit by a car? He goes, uh-huh. I was like, yes, she was hit by a car.
Yeah, I went to tell the security guard that there was an accident while you were, I guess, interrogating the wounded person.
Yes.
Yeah, well, hopefully the lighting was adequate, because if I were the person who was hit by the car and I was their lawyer, I would suggest suing both the driver of the car and the venue, because the venue has a much bigger insurance policy.
Yes, I want you to all picture Mike holding a business card in one hand, a briefcase in the other, with the tails of his blazer flapping in the wind, racing after an ambulance. That is the trip and fall lawyer.
All I'm saying is,
we
if
see
she wants to
before us.
make some money, she's got to sue the venue, because the driver's probably only got a $25,000 or a $50,000 policy, and that's not going to be enough, even if she has her medical covered.
Do you want to go back?
This should not be construed as legal advice.
She's probably still there. We should head back.
Listen, I'm sure she'll have no problem finding a personal injury lawyer on Long Island. There might be one or two around.
Well, thank you guys so much for listening.
Oh, and Nat and I stayed
what?
sober. We drank Shirley Temples
Yes, we did.
and split a brownie. It was romantic.
Oh, it was funny because when we ordered the Shirley Temples, this old grizzled, bartendress type.
She was like 1,000 years old.
Like so.
Is this for you,
For you
or for the kids?
For your kids.
And I said, no, we don't drink. It's for us. She goes,
Oh, I just wanted to know how big to make the cups.
She goes, I'm sorry, guys. I don't have any cherries.
oh, man.
Like, that's all right. That's all right. Yeah.
So good time was had by all. Lots of cool stuff coming up, guys. There's so much happening in my life that I want to tell you about.
Don't give them too much to look forward
But
to,
I
because
just-
we can't produce very much. That's the problem.
We've got some ideas. If you just stick with us like you have been, we're going to do something. We're never giving up on this. I'm
No.
not.
I think maybe I should drive you to work, and we could just record on this portable recorder in the car in the morning.
I could probably get away during the day. Like my current office sucks because it's in a basement. I get no internet, and I'm waiting to move out to the next floor. But I'm starting to get to a point where I can make time during the day.
Well, maybe we could do lunch and just record. We can eat our lunch and record in the car.
Why not?
While we're eating.
I'm by the
People
Walt
would love
Whitman
that.
Mall.
They'd get to hear us. No.
Yes. What are they, ASMR or whatever?
One thing I know about podcasts that people are always asking for is more mouth noises.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife is screaming, listening to this right now. But there's so much I want to tell you guys about, and I had a great time. Did you?
It was awesome.
Support your favorite show. Give us a review. I mean, I don't have my outline in front of me, so
You really
I feel
wanna ask-
naked before.
Should we ask for reviews when we are not producing shows so much?
guys, reviews are. We
Listen to
love
the old
them.
shows and wrate reviews.
It makes me feel good.
Yeah, it's
All
mostly
right.
for our ego.
It is, because as a lot of addicts are, I am an egomaniac with an inferiority complex, otherwise known as the piece of shit at the center of the universe.
That's too much fucking AA negative self-talk for me, my friend.
It works if you work it, so work it, you're worth it. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. And as we say,
Stay fresh, cheese bags. Oh, no, we say the other thing first.
non proficiat perfectum.
That's progress, not perfection.
We will see you next time.
Yeah, and next time we'll have, like, the news and stuff.
Yes.
Remember?
Yes, send your show ideas.
Yeah.
We need help.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, everybody.
See you
And
next-
Melissa, Nat's going to look up your T-shirt thing, and I'll send it to you.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I will.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
See you next
Bye.
time. Bye.
Seriously.